So yeah, I went to, like a good kid, finished school, went to University of New South Wales, did my first degree, Bachelor of Commerce, in marketing at New South, and then went into PR and marketing for the hotel industry for about 6 years, which was a brilliant start, and I ended up doing that in Australia and then also in San Francisco. So it was really when I got to San Francisco that I got the excitement for being in the startup world and thought, oh, this is a bit exciting. There are, 22-year-olds driving around in Ferraris and they're ordering hamburgers and $600 bottles of wine. I think I want to be part of that world. So that was all really exciting in the early 2000s. And then fast forward back to living in Sydney and moving back to Sydney with my husband. And I got pregnant with my first child and realised that there wasn't a lot out there for kids and babies and how parents could decide on what prams and cots and high chairs and things like that to get. So got back here and decided to launch my first business. Back then, and that business was Babyology. So it was a digital media company, and that was my longest lasting company I had, which was an overnight success, 11 years. People say, oh, it's overnight success, but it was 11 very grueling, hard years of my life, building it from being a blog that I launched at my dining room table with a bit of design from friends into a company that was a multi-million-dollar company where I had 28 staff involved. So so that was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun as well. And so what we really were back then is it was a parenting website where we would write content every day. I had a team of writers. We did a lot of social media. We actually did a lot of events. And then what I did is I pivoted to try and work out how, with such a big following, I could actually make more money. So we had 60% of all parents following us every single day online and on our social media. And then we turned that into a subscription box business, running events in every state and really trying to monetize those people that would come to the website. So I registered that in Christmas 2006 when I had a 1-year-old and I was pregnant with my second one, which, as any parent will know, is an absolutely perfect time to start a business. And then 10 years later managed to get a really good acquisition for that business, sell that on, and left in 2018. And I stepped down and handed over the reins to someone else. So what I'm going to do to you is talk to you today about how I launched that business, how I worked remotely with 3 small children at the time, how I grew it and how it was successfully exited, because I think a lot of people want to know about the acquisition process. It's all very well, we build businesses, and I actually build them at the very beginning knowing how I would like to exit them and build backwards that way, and then just talk to you about all the details that go along with that and all the lessons that I learned. So at the time of the business, I'll just go back to this one. Yeah, I was doing a lot of stories. That's 2 of my kids. That's not the 3rd one yet, but I've got 3 girls. And I was doing a lot of stories like this for the media and for Current Affair and on the news about, holding baby and stirring a pot and being on your computer. But we all know, for anyone that's ever worked from home, which is most of us now, that is not necessarily the way it works. The way I used to do it was if my kids were, everyone probably knows what cheesels are. So I worked out that, if I threw a packet of cheesels down my stairs, it would give me 25 minutes for my 2 tiny children to eat those cheesels and allow me to do 1 phone call at a time. So they did get a lot of cheesels in their life, but it did allow me some time, because no one can work with children around you any time of day. It's more like you lock the bathroom door and you're in there with a different background or blurring your background, basically saying, no, this is the perfect time to talk. So this was all before COVID and before we've all been through this, and everyone used to be like, why don't you just work in an office? But you get a lot more done at home, I think, and especially now we're all doing a few days at home. So Babyology was quite a big business. We ended up with quite a big following, actually, with over 1 million people coming to the website every month, 3,002,000 page views. We had over 1.2 million Facebook fans at the time when they were interested in buying it from us, and we were reaching 40% of all mums in Australia, which is a huge amount, but I think for me that always meant that there was 60% that we weren't reaching. So as long as we had more people to reach, more eyeballs to reach, more parents becoming new parents every day, that was all I cared about. And so for the first 7 years, my entire strategy just revolved around more revenue and more eyeballs. So as long as we were getting more and more people onto our platforms, onto our social media, reading our content and engaging with us, and that was increasing to make more revenue every day. That was literally the only stats I needed. I didn't need an enormous marketing plan. I didn't need a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year strategy, which I find can be quite distracting when you're launching a business. All I did was break it down into what was really important at that time, and as long as I was making more money and we were getting more traffic, that was all I really cared about. So that's when we started to diversify a little bit, and I said, okay, we're reaching 40% of all women in Australia who have kids. That's amazing. How else will these women engage with us? And that's when we started to go, well, maybe they'd like to come offline a little bit. So what we did was run big baby shower events all over the country. So we had about 400 to 500 women, some poor men that would be dragged along as well, like probably 2% of men that in the baby shower events. And yeah, it was amazing. We made a lot of cash. Everyone says you can't make money out of events, but I did it in quite an interesting backwards way, where we let the hotel make all the money. We didn't get charged room fees or anything. They would sell all the tickets, but I would sell all the sponsorship. So as long as I had, 200,000 worth of sponsorship coming in, happy days. It was a great event. All the sponsors would give product. It was a bit like an Oprah event where look under your seat and you get it, here you win a car, or you win these new prams, or you win a year's worth of nappies, all that stuff. So that went really, really well for quite a few years. And then what we did was decided to launch subscription boxes. And so this is a Birchbox type system where we thought we had all these people and this was a great idea, and we launched it pretty much overnight. I didn't ever do anything without a lot of research on whether the community would want it. So we put up there like sign up for a subscription box, pay us $60 every quarter to get product to your door, sign up now. And I launched it only when I had 8,000 names on a list, because I knew there would be a market for it. There's no point in spending all this time and all this research and all this staffing if you think that it might not happen. So that was great. So we had 8,000 people signed up, and it was actually quite a disaster because we didn't realise at the time that content is really easy to do, product is not as easy to do, and shipping product and having complaints and dealing with customer service. So that got really tricky as people, once they had newborns, it was all great, but once it started to be they had 6-month-olds or 1-year-olds, or a boy versus a girl, or twins, or a kid that didn't like cashmere but wanted, it just became really, really, really hard to manage. So that was not a great business move on my part, but I always say fail fast. So we rounded that up. That cost quite a bit of money to round up, but it wasn't worth going and tarnishing the brand name, which I was always very proud of, giving product that wasn't exactly what we wanted it to be. So yeah, cost a bit of money, learned a lot from that, but that's fine. We moved on basically. So so what I'll talk about is, I launched the business with $5,000 dining room table business, 2007, with some design from my friend, and then we turned that into a multi-million-dollar business a decade later. So I started off by really just writing all the content myself, even though I'm not a writer, but I just wrote it from a place of passion, and it wasn't great. I went out to everyone I could think of, trade show floors, knocked on doors, walked around at that point trying to explain what a blog was and what marketing for a blog was, rather than newspaper or radio advertising or anything. And because we were a niche within a niche, it became quite tricky to do, but it was really just about going out there and selling the dream to everyone. So one of the first things we did was, nothing happens overnight, obviously. So everyone talks about the unicorns, and that's what I mentioned before. But we launched, I worked really, really hard. We kept pivoting the business over and over again, and I think you've got to be ready to do that. If you want to go down this way, but the market's going that way, you've got to be nimble and you've got to be able to do that. And that's one of the reasons you're a startup and you're not with a corporate, because corporates can't move that quickly, whereas that's one of your big advantages, is you can have the motivation, have the crazy ideas, all the exhaustion that comes with it, and just get things moving in a really quick way. The number of times I would have chats to my husband in bed, like at night or even very early in the morning, just saying, this is what I think we should do, and then we'd action that day just because we could. So yeah, does anyone work with their partner at all? Because that's really hard and really tricky. I can say, I don't know if I'd recommend that here. But there are some advantages, because, you know, date nights and tax deductible, you can go out for dinner. But yeah, we worked together all the time once he came into the business, and we were raising the 3 kids all the time, so we would actually take it in turns. One of us would walk to work while the other one would get an Uber, and vice versa, just so we could have 10 minutes where we worked together every day. So yeah, financial obstacles, and this is a big one as well. It's easy to say don't let money get in the way, and to stay in your job and do what you're doing while you've got your idea and your passion and you're working on it on the side. But I think, you know, if you're launching without the cash, that's really tricky. But also waiting till you're making enough in your passion business and then sliding over is really the best way of doing it, because the financial stress can be huge if you decide to leave your job, start your business. You know, you're a year in, you realise there's no market for it, you've still got a mortgage, like it's very stressful. So if there's any way that you can, you know, work on it and test it out and start doing some things, a lot of good ways are with, you know, accelerators and incubators and all that stuff they have now is brilliant, because you can go and do an accelerator 1 day a week or half a day a week, get some money, they'll give you a safe note, they'll invest in your businesses, you'll build a community of other entrepreneurs that you can work with, and those things weren't around like 15 years ago. So yeah, distractions. Don't get easily distracted, I think, by, you know, all the things people are telling you. Entrepreneurship is such a big thing at the moment, and you'll get, you know, a lot of mentors, you'll get a lot of people talking about how they did it, how it worked, how it didn't work, all that stuff. But I mean, really, I launched a business with no money, and this was my 3rd business, and just started working at it at a time where I would have either been in another job or at home with a child. I had no business plan, I had no marketing plan, I didn't go out and get funding at the beginning. I just started going, and I just started working really hard to every day build on that numbers and people coming and reading our content. So it was a very slow growth at the beginning. Obviously it was my parents and, you know, family and friends going, oh my God, this is amazing. But, you know, quite quickly that, you know, first few thousand grew into 50,000, grew into 100,000, and it just kind of grows from there. But yeah, if you're distracted and think that you can't actually start because you don't have all the tools, or you don't have everything in place, or, you know, it's not the right time, then there's never going to be a good time. So I think that's something that I learned, and I've launched quite a few different businesses where I haven't been ready to do them, and some of them have worked and some of them haven't worked. Employees, when you get to the point where you need other people, because one person is not enough, and you can only get so far by doing it all yourself, it's all about hiring the right people. And I have to say, very often I did not hire the right people, and that was one of my biggest costs to the business, and it almost cost me this business, was hiring really people that weren't right for the jobs. I used to get incredibly excited just when people wanted to work with us, and I would say, I will teach you everything I know and it'll be amazing. But I realised over the years, you've actually got to learn from your employees. So you're trying to hire people who are better than you are at certain things. So if you're hiring a marketing person, you don't want to teach them what you know. You want them to be the expert in marketing and come in and teach you things. You want the best event manager. You want the best finance person, because no entrepreneur can be amazing at finance, legal, marketing, sales, you know, being a CTO, all the technology. You just can't. No one has that skill set. So you're trying to actually hire those people that are the best. And I was not very good at that. I used to hire everyone, and then we had to get an HR person in who wouldn't let me speak to anyone until they were on the final round, which actually worked a lot better. Cash flow. The cash flow is my favourite thing to talk about. Yeah, so watch cash flow all the time. and I mean all the time, because I see so many companies that drown under cash flow issues. And I think, you know, we're all told, like, make sure you've got 6 months in the bank because you'll be fine if things don't come in. But we were tracking along, we were great, and then all of a sudden, you know, 2 big accounts didn't pay us for 2 months. A couple of people left and we had to get recruiters in, and all of a sudden we had no money. So it happens really, really fast, and I think, you know, everyone thinks they're watching it and they're on top of it all, but yeah, it can just come and get you like that without you even knowing. So we bootstrapped the business majority of the time, and so it was really only as big as I was able to put cash through. And there are definite advantages to bootstrapping your business and not having investors in there. You know, you can be able to pivot a lot quicker. You can make decisions that are a bit more nimble, which is what I was talking about. You know, without investors and without a board, but it's only going to grow as fast as your personal wealth allows you. So, you know, I'm not going to stand up here and say you should or you shouldn't take finance, you should or you shouldn't have investors. Totally your call, and there are benefits and disadvantages to both those sides of things. So it's about looking at your business model and making sure, if you do get investors and a board, that they are the right people for your business, because they will be with you for a very long time, and it's very hard to get out of investments when you don't want it or you don't feel like they're the right people anymore. So yeah, starting or raising money means you can also hire better talent, make better decisions, move a lot faster on things, and grow the business a lot quicker. And sometimes I believe it is, I've had some businesses where I've taken money, and then you know, even if you own 20, 30, even 5% of a business that is much, much bigger, that can be more worthwhile than owning 100% of something that's not going to grow very fast. Having a thick skin, huge one, huge one. So anyone who is owning their own business or is an entrepreneur, there are days where you're completely euphoric and you're like, I cannot believe this is my life, this is incredible. But then, you know, the next day can be the day where you're lying in a fetal position because, you know, clients haven't paid, 3 people have resigned, and you're just like, I do not know how I got here, I just want to go get a job. So, you know, there's all ends of the spectrum, and I felt it all, you know, and it can be over a couple of days or a week. But yeah, you make mistakes along the way and you don't always make the right decisions, and it's not going to be a smooth, straight line. But entrepreneurship, I think you'll agree, is about just keeping up and getting going. So even on those days that are rough, even on those days where it's all falling apart, no one else is going to do it. You can't say, I don't want to be the CEO anymore, I'm not coming. You have to do it. And I did say that a few times, I'm not doing this anymore. But you just have to keep going. So yeah, go with your gut. I've very often just gone with my gut and have made decisions on what feels right and what doesn't feel right. That's with advisors, that's with mentors. Some people just feel right to you and some decisions feel right and others are not as great. And so I think it's really listening to all of that. Authenticity and credibility are also very, very important to me, and I probably could have grown my businesses faster, quicker, and done a few more things that I wasn't comfortable doing, but I was always more about being authentic and credible, and I wanted to know that the entire 12 years I was running this business, or the previous years where I was running my 2 others, that at any time anyone could come to me, want to buy the business, and I would be perfectly above board with anything on the books, anything in the finances, anything in the marketing, anything with SEO. You know, there's a lot of ways where you can take side steps and try and get a bit faster, but that wasn't what we wanted to do. And that came down to even the advisor I used to sell my company and get my acquisition. He might have not been the guy that got me the best price that I wanted, but he was a good guy and he was a nice guy and I respected him. And I think that says a lot when you're running a business as well. Being uncomfortable, I learned this from quite a few of my mentors as well along the way. And I've learned over the years that when I feel good about the business, or when I feel good in general about life and everything's tracking along really nicely, that's when it's time to make a change, because it's quite good to feel uncomfortable. My poor husband, he wouldn't agree. Yeah, lately I've been like, let's adopt a child, because our 3 children are like getting older, but he's like, what are you talking about? So yeah, so I am that type of personality that wants to make myself feel uncomfortable and know that things are a little bit chaotic, and I think being an entrepreneur is chaotic. Like, it's not, you don't wake up every day getting the same salary. Some days are amazing, some days are not. So it's about having that personality within you and knowing that that's something that you don't mind, is to be uncomfortable. looking after yourself. This is one I didn't do very well for many of the years. And I have to say it's really, really hard to do it all yourself. When my children were 7, 6 and 1, I literally collapsed under the pressure of it all. The business was growing. I was travelling a lot, like overseas, internationally. And then all we did, I was spinning all those plates, which all goes very, very well until it doesn't. We moved house and I didn't have internet for 4 days, and that literally put me into a nervous breakdown state. So I think it's very, very careful. And I think more people talk about mental health now, and it's fine to talk about and speak to that point, in that it's about not living so close to the line, like knowing yourself, knowing when you've got to cut back, knowing when your kids need you, knowing when your family needs you, and knowing how to balance all of that, because that was, I found, really, really tricky. So in the end, what we did, which I never even thought of doing, because I wanted to be around for all my kids, was we got a housekeeper. Instead of getting a nanny, that most people say, get a nanny, they'll take your kids off your hands. I didn't want my kids off my hands, but I wanted someone else to do our washing, unpack our dishwasher, make dinner, tidy the house, do all the shitty stuff that a lot of people don't want to do. And so that actually changed our life. $40 a day, came in 5 days a week for 3 hours in the morning, and that's what got me back on track. And I still got to be with my kids in the afternoon. It wasn't someone else putting them to bed or taking them out. I did all of that, but I had someone else do all the stuff that we don't want to do necessarily. So that was something, I would say, warning is that it's really hard to do all of that stuff by yourself. So they're pretty much most of the lessons that I have learned, and all the mistakes I've made. There are many, many more, but I've been given a strict time slot. So feel free to connect with me also on LinkedIn or anywhere you want. As I said, I'm an open book. I'm happy to answer any specific questions anyone has about your businesses, about anything I've said today, just about getting some advice. I'm more than happy to chat to anyone, and I hope you guys have a great day today. And thank you so much for having me.